Hey everyone, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate each and every one of you. In today's video, we are going to take a look at these two new babies, the RT2600ac and the MR2200ac as a mesh unit. But we are not going to do a regular unboxing and review because this has already been done. These guys are not new in the market. In fact, let's throw the boxes away. We don't need them anymore. We are going to take these devices and configure them with security in mind, and we are going to see how do they measure up in today's 2021 world. When these guys came to the market, the entire industry was very different and the world was very different. There was no Ubiquiti UDM, there was no TP-Link Comada, the competition was completely different. There wasn't any emphasis on remote working because today's world is in 2021 very much COVID influenced. So we are going to configure them and see how do they measure up in today's 2021 world. Full disclosure, these guys were supplied to me free of charge by Synology, but they are not paying for this review, they are not editing it, and every opinion you're about to hear is completely my own. So let's go over to the computer, start configure them, and see how do they measure up in today's world. Let's go ahead. Alright guys, so we are at the computer, and just a second before we'll start the configuration process, first of all, who is this device being aimed at? First of all, it's the average home user and maybe the tech-savvy home user, but also this device is being aimed at for businesses in the SMB space. You can see it by having a USB port in the back for cellular internet failover, and the fact that it has 4 gigabit LAN ports, that one of them can be assigned as a secondary WAN port for a secondary ISP, and then you can failover and even load balance and even policy route that for example that Zoom calls are only going to be forwarded to a different ISP, and I don't know, regular web browsing will be routed through the secondary ISP, etc. This device has a 1.7 gigahertz processor, 512 megabytes of RAM. It has a 4x4 MU MIMO, so this means that multiple devices are going to be able to send and receive at the same time. But what you're going to see in a few minutes is where this device really shines a lot brighter than any other competition out there is the user interface. It's something that Synology actually wins awards for almost every year, both in their NAS devices, and they've really implemented here in their router devices. The user interface is exquisite. We are going to talk about it when we get there. So the device has been factory reset, connected to ISP, connected to my computer. You are going to take it out of the box and connect it and point your browser to router.synology.com. You are going to be taken to this welcome wizard. I am not going to stop on every screen because I do want to keep this video as short as possible. We have a lot to cover. Let's go right ahead and click on start. We are going to select an admin user. Please avoid using the default admin like almost everyone does. This is the first account that attackers are going to try to brute force. Just think of another username to use. Give it a password, the stronger the better. Going to click on next. And now we are going to be presented with a Wi-Fi setup wizard. So let's give it, I don't know, a new SSID. Let's call it Syno employee. Just to mention that, just to single, this is going to be our internal network. Let's give it a password, a super secret one. And a location. Now, depends on where you are located. I'm just going to pick on United States. This will change the bandwidth frequencies that are let's say, regularly approved by the government of each country. Let's click on next. Now, this device can act as a wireless router, but it can also act just as an access point. We are going to use it as a wireless router, and at this point I'm going to keep external access to the SRM. SRM is the name of the operating system. I'm going to keep it as disabled for now. I am going to enable it in a more secure way later on. Let's click on next. Now, as for internet connection, my internet connection uses DHCP, so I don't need to do anything in this screen. If you use DSL, so you will probably need to change it to PPPoE, fully supported here. Let's click on apply. And now this device will set up itself, set up the wireless network, set up the internal network, set up the operating system itself. I am of course going to pause the recording right here and resume it when this process is already finished. Alright, now we are going to be taken to the SRM. Actually, it's not a user interface, it's really an operating system with windows that you can minimize and maximize and multitask on. It's a real operating system. I'm going to keep on OK, and really this is where Synology shines a lot brighter, and Synology is light years ahead of their competition. It's the user interface. It's the perfect balance between keeping things simple for the average user and keeping things advanced and having a lot of features that the prosumer or that the professional user or the tech-savvy user will really have a lot of control over what's going on in the network. So this is the default desktop we are being presented on upon completing the wizard. So let's work in an orderly fashion. The first thing I recommend you do, if it's a Synology router or any other router, just go and see if there is a firmware update available to you. To go into Control Panel and go into System and just see if there is an update available for me. One thing that Synology does extremely well is keeping their devices, both NAS and routers, very well updated. I have used a few wireless routers that had, I don't know, in 4 years, just, I don't know, 2 updates. So Synology does an excellent job on this area. Alright, so seems like we don't have an update waiting for us. So we'll start working our way top down. We'll go to the network center, and this is where you'll configure your internet connection, your Wi-Fi networks. As you can see, I have my IP address already configured. Let's go into internet. And I've pulled out an image from Amazon. As you can see, there is a USB port right here. This is where you'll connect a cellular modem for redundancy. And as you can see, this LAN port can be configured as a secondary WAN port. Now, these are features that we're probably used to seeing in enterprise level products. It's available for us right here on the Synology router. So as you can see, these are my ISP settings. If I need to change my connection from auto to PPPoE, I will do it here. And this is something that I want to do right now, is configure Quick Connect and DDNS, so I will have some sort of an external access to the device, and later on it will help me configure VPN. So we'll enable Quick Connect, and let's call it, I don't know, TMO RT2600ac for the lack of a better idea. That's great. One more thing I'm going to enable is DDNS, and again, this is something that I will use later on when we configure VPN, so keep watching, definitely something worth watching. Let's click on Add. Service provider, let's keep it Synology, and let's give it the same host name, TMO RT2600ac. Let's accept the terms and click OK. Now, in the process, as you can see, we are also requesting a Let's Encrypt certificate. Sometimes I have seen this process fail, but then when you go into the certificate section in the interface and request a certificate, it works. So either way, we will cover the Let's Encrypt certificate in this video. All right, so the process is complete. It took about 2 or 3 minutes, but we have DDNS configured and the certificate automatically requested from Let's Encrypt and already been configured as the default certificate. That's great. Moving on to port forwarding. I think that a lot of people use port forwarding, and look how easy it is on the SRM interface to create a port forwarding rule. Just give it a name, give the IP address of where you want to port forward, and I already get an autocomplete of the device that I want to use. Just name the public port. That means that this is the port you are coming in from the internet towards your Synology device. And the private port, if you want the internal port to be a different port, you can configure it right here. Select TCP or UDP or both, and that's it. That's how easy it was to create a port forwarding rule. Local network. This is where you'll assign the local network address. In this default example, it's 192.168.1.1. That's great. You can change it, you can leave it. The DHCP server, I'm going to configure at least 20 addresses that I will be able to assign statically, and I'm going to end the pool at 240 if I want to assign some static IP addresses at the end of the pool. Traffic control. Now, this is an excellent feature that a lot of devices simply can't do. This is where we can establish sort of a QoS and give priority to a single or several devices, or even give priority to an application. Let's go to the Advanced tab and click on Enable Traffic Control. Now, you will need to tell the device what is your ISP bandwidth that you are getting. For me, it's 500 down and 50 up. Now, the default policy, this means that even though I have 500 megabytes up and 50 down and 50 up, I can also limit every client to a maximum bandwidth on the local network, on the guest network. This is especially, think of a hotel use case. Even though they have 500 megabytes maybe of down speed, they can limit each and every device to maximum of 10 megabytes. That's a great way to prevent a device from hogging all your bandwidth and leaving very little for others. So let's click on OK. And now we can configure things like, for my device, for example, I can create an app rule. Let's see if there's Skype, for example. All right, Skype call. I can give guarantee bandwidth or maximum bandwidth, or guaranteed download, or a maximum download speed. Look how fine-grained we can be for a device to even set an application on the device itself. For example, if you have, a child or an employee or something like that that uses, downloads torrents and hogs all the bandwidth, you can go in and create an application rule that will limit its usages on the internet. Okay, let's just cancel out of it. You get the idea. This is a very, very powerful tool that will allow you to manage almost every little thing that goes through your network. Not only that, you can take a device and give it a high priority. And this means this device, when it competes with other devices for bandwidth, this device is going to win. So that's again a very powerful tool. And there's also a way for you to ban this device from the network. If you look at this device and you don't think that it needs to be connected. Maybe it's not yours, maybe someone connected to your Wi-Fi network. You can ban this device from your network completely. Moving on to security, I do recommend enabling DDoS protection. I do recommend do not allow SRM to be embedded. Click on apply. And one of the most important things I think that you should do is go to the Firewall tab. One thing that you can do, which really easy to do and really something that I think everyone should do, is create some sort of a geolocation filtering. I'm going to give it a name and select, in this case, in the source, select a region. And for example, I am not expecting anyone from North Korea to communicate with me and for me to communicate with him. So I'm going to select North Korea, and you can select additional countries as you see fit, on all ports, on all addresses, and the action will be deny. And this is how easy it is to create a geolocation type filtering on your Synology firewall. Really easy to do and really something that you should think about doing. Let's go into services. Of course, I want to save it. Services, this is where you can see just in a glimpse what services are running on your firewall. And for example, if you don't think that FTP should be running, you can uncheck it. Auto block, again, something that I really recommend enabling. So 10 failed login attempts within a time frame of 5 minutes will create a block on the user, and it will be unlocked after 30 days. So that's a great way to prevent brute force attacks on you. Operation modes, of course I want to save it. Operation modes is where you can switch from router mode into access point mode. Not relevant for us. Alright, so this is the network center for you. We are going to move forward to Wi-Fi Connect. This is where you'll configure your Wi-Fi network, the password. This is where you'll connect additional Wi-Fi points or mesh points. And this is exactly what I'm going to do. So first things first, I do want to enable the 2.5 and 5 GHz auto selection. That's great. I am going to change the 5 GHz channel statically to 36 and the 2.4 to channel 1. I am going to create a guest network, and let's call it Syno guests. Again, give it a password, super secret one. Maximum connections, if you're not expecting more than that, then you can leave it on. And I'm going to say, this is a feature called AP isolation. I'm going to disallow clients from communicating with each other, and not to mention allowing guests to access my local network, which is a big no-no. So this is the first thing I'm going to configure, but this is something that a lot of devices can do, create a guest network, but where Synology can give you a little bit of an extra right here on the schedule. For example, let's say that this device is located in your store or something like that, and you're only working from 9 to 5. There is no need for the Wi-Fi to be always on. So you can customize the schedule in which you can disable the guest network. For example, from midnight to 7 o'clock, it won't be available. And from 6 to 11, the guest network is not going to be broadcasted. So you will have a guest network only between working hours. That's very logic to do. And you can also enable a guest portal, and you can customize it to have a certain logo, a certain background, and every time guests will connect to your guest network, they will be presented with this guest portal. They will click on connect, and this is where you can even, I don't know, put in your logo or do a little bit of promotion I'm not going to enable it, I don't need it. I'm going to reset. So we're all set on the Wi-Fi settings. What I'm going to do right now, I'm going to pause this video. I'm going to take my mesh unit, actually it's right here, the MR2200ac. All I'm going to do is to plug it into power. That's it, nothing else. Now you need to connect it at first somewhere relatively close to the base unit, to the RT unit, and just give it 30 seconds or a minute just to be powered on. And then we are going to try to maybe, let's call it, adopt it or configure it and bind it to our RT2600ac. So I'm going to pause the video and connect this guy to power. Alright, so the device is connected, it's blinking blue, this is the state that it needs to be in, and I'm going to go into Wi-Fi point, click on add, and hopefully automagically it's going to find it and configure it. Let's make sure the Wi-Fi points are ready, they are. Let's click on Wi-Fi points ready. It's going to search around, maybe send out a few broadcast messages, and hopefully it will find the device. Found it. Let's give it a name. Let's say it will be in the garage. That's great. Click on next. Alright, so as you can see, the device is still updating. So I'm not going to wait for it. As you can see, luckily we don't have a web interface. We have a web operating system that we can open Windows on. So we'll jump right over to the next thing. For me, it's the most killer feature of this device. It's the safe access. What this allows you to do, we'll circle back to the Wi-Fi Connect application, but what safe access allows you to do is create a profile, assign devices to this profile, and create a sort of a web policy or web filtering that will be applied to this device or devices. And this is where parental controls are really being taken to the next level in ways I have not seen in any other device. Synology have really done a superb job of creating this safe access application. Let's dive right in and create a profile, and we'll first create a profile for the network, for the entire network. All devices on the network will be subjected to this policy. This will be applying on my local LAN. Let's create, and this will serve as a sort of a baseline. Then when we'll configure profiles for the individual users, the individual policy or profile will win over the network policy. Alright, so let's set access rule. And since this is only going to be a general broad baseline, I am going to turn on web filtering. I'm going to use custom, and I'm only going to name it general, and I'm going to block only, let's say, I don't know, and advertising, why not? And it's ready. Alright, I can also force safe search. I'm not going to implement it right now. Now let's say you have kids around the house and you want to make sure they're using the internet in the safest way that you can provide. Let's create a user profile in this case, and let's name it kids. We'll assign devices. In this case it will be my device to this profile. It can be one or several. It can be a computer or a tablet. Let's click create, and let's set access rules. All right, web filtering. You can choose from predefined templates that Synology have created for us. Let's click on the child. Now, the disadvantage of creating a predefined web filtering profile is that you cannot really customize it. Now, I have assigned my computer into this kid's profile. So if everything goes well, if I'll try to go in to ESPN.com, I should be getting a block page. Let's try. And as you can see, the website is indeed blocked. So this is how Synology really took it to the next level and created web filtering and web management and parental controls in a way that I have never seen in any other device, almost any other device out there, except of course the enterprise grade devices that have web filtering in a whole different way. I can also create a profile for my guest Wi-Fi. Let's create the profile, and this means that everyone that's connected to my guest Wi-Fi network will get a web filtering policy, of a guest. So now everyone that's connected to my guest network will get the guest policies applied to it. I don't have to configure each individual device. So that's a great way to manage who gets what. You can create a strict profile for your kids, a more permissive web filtering profile for the parents. You can even customize the block page. Really super job on this application. You can even enable threat intelligence database. That means that a malicious website will automatically be blocked, and the device will, I think that twice a day gets the database updated. Still, in the safe access, you can see activity. If something got blocked, for example, my attempt to go into ESPN.com was logged. So then you can see at the end of the day who tried to get into what website, and that can give you a lot of insight of what maybe your kids are trying to do when they're alone in their rooms with their computers. Super job in that case. Notification is where you can configure the application to send you, an email every time someone reached a site and it got blocked. So this will really keep you up to date on what's going on in real time. Super job on that case. Now let's close this window. Even though the system update failed, the device is now being restarted, so we'll give it a few minutes to jump back into work. The next thing that I would like to show you is the package center. Again, something that is very different from every other device out there. You can extend the functionality of your device by downloading certain applications like VPN Plus. Due to a time shortage, I'm going to create a whole new video just on the VPN capabilities of this device. I don't want to cram too much into a single video. I will create a separate video just on VPN. But as Synology pushes more and more applications into the package center, you will gain more and more functionality. Again, something that is, I think, years ahead of any other competitor out there, especially in the SMB and home market. We'll enable all the firewall exception rules that this application needs. We'll click on OK. And just like that, from the package center, we now have a full suite of capabilities with a VPN Plus server application. And just as a teaser, we have a web VPN. That means a clientless VPN that we can configure for our users. And from this web portal, users will be able to gain access to internal resources from their web browser. Super job on that one. So we have a web VPN, we have let's say a regular SSL VPN with a client. We can enable remote desktop. This means that through the usage of behind the scenes reverse proxy, we can allow the users to gain remote desktop access to their devices, again, without needing the whole usage of a client. We can use standard VPN like OpenVPN, PPTP, L2TP. I don't know, these two are not commonly used. OpenVPN I can understand. And we also have site-to-site VPN. Again, a feature that is just until not too long ago was only in enterprise-grade devices. Site-to-site VPN, if you have a device, the RT26ac, and maybe your friends have one, you can connect your networks together. This will require a license. But again, a super feature. Let's just circle back to the Wi-Fi Connect and see what's the status of our Wi-Fi point. And looks like everything seems to be in order. I do want to take the time and talk about what I didn't like in this device, and there are a few disadvantages. For example, this device does not support VLANs, so you cannot segregate each port into different VLANs. Sadly, not an option. This device does have a USB 3 port to connect an external device, an external hard drive, and use the router almost like a NAS, but I didn't like the fact that the USB port is on the side. For me, it makes mounting the device a little more difficult. I wish it was on the back. One more thing that I don't like in this device is the safe access policies that are predefined are not customizable, but they are not even telling you what are the categories that they are blocking. So these are the things that I didn't like in the device, just to be honest and objective. Otherwise, this device is, even in 2021, is secure, is safe, giving you the control you need on your network. It's really up to par. It's easy to configure. It's fast, and if you have an ISP connection that is up to 1 GB down, this device will have no problem handling it. I need to put a little checkbox on it, because if you do download and configure the IPS application, which I will do a video about, this will take down, this will give you a penalty and will slow your connection. But otherwise, this device is again years ahead of its competitors. Easy to use, pleasant, beautiful, give you a lot of functionality. In my book, it's a clear winner. So join me on the next video that I'm planning to do only on VPN, but a deep dive on VPN usage on this device. Otherwise, thank you so much for being here. Please hit the like button, it will really help me a lot with the YouTube algorithm, and I'll see you all in the next videos. Bye bye guys, thank you.